Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Adora Yin, and today I'm going to be talking about how I got a star in IGCSE English language, which has the course code 0500. So this video is part of my IGCSE tips video series. I've already done videos on all four of the sciences, so that's biology, chemistry, and physics, and computer science. So you guys should check it out if you haven't already. And even if you don't take those subjects, those tips might be helpful for other sciences or other courses that are similar in nature. But yeah, as I said, today I'm going to be focusing on English because I haven't done a video outside of sciences so far, and obviously the tips for English are going to vary a lot. I'm also going to do another video down the line on 0475, which is English literature, which is slightly different but also really similar in nature, but the tips I'm going to be giving are different because obviously the subjects are different. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna start talking and get right into it. I have my trusty laptop here again for my references. It's been a while since I've taken the exams, honestly. I took them last year, May to June, so it's been basically half a year, but I've been doing this stuff for 2 years, so it's still pretty well fresh in my head. But yeah, I'm just gonna start talking about it. So first of all, there's gonna be two papers. Paper 1 is just the reading paper, and it is 2 hours long. And inside this paper, there's many different questions. You have to read 3 texts, and there's a lot of questions based on those texts. Now, all of these English language paper 1 exams, they all follow the same pattern, obviously, and that's also listed in the syllabus. So I'm going to be talking about tips for each of these questions as we go, and also tell you about like the marks, how much time to dedicate to each question, stuff like that. Stuff that my teacher told me that ended up being really helpful, and I'm just gonna accumulate in one video, which I wish I had when I was taking it, but it's fine because my teacher was still amazing. Okay, anyway, so let's start off. So first, when you open your question paper, you're gonna have your text booklet separate, which has the 3 texts, text A, B, and C. You're gonna have the question paper, and you're gonna have like some additional sheets for writing that your school is gonna provide you with. But yeah, the first thing you should do is you should open the question paper. So usually the reason why I do this is because when I do reading comprehensions in general, not even just for IGCSE, I find it a lot more helpful knowing what the questions are and what I'm looking for in the text, and that will also optimize your time a lot more because the time constraints for paper 1, they're pretty harsh. It's definitely hard to fit everything within the time limits. Like 2 hours sounds like a long time, but when you look at the freaking 16 pages of the question paper and the fact that you gotta fully comprehend and read 3 whole texts, that's a little bit more challenging than it looks. What I usually did was that I looked at the questions first so that I could kind of familiarize myself and figure out what I'm looking for in the text, and then I'll start reading the text. Now, text A is going to be pretty straightforward because I'm pretty sure it's the shortest one as well. And based off of text A, you only need to do not one question, but there's only one section of questions, and that section is called short answers. So yeah, it's really straightforward, honestly, because you just have to answer really simple questions about the text, and also you gotta rephrase things in your own words, and there's other questions that's like giving examples or just listing things. So for this series of questions, what you should do is just lift from the text, except for the bits where it said in bold in the question that you should use your own words. So for the use your own words questions, obviously you just have to find synonyms of the phrase that they give you, and it's honestly not too bad. Like, just search your brain for all the synonyms that you can find and kind of just blot them out. These questions are also only a few marks worth, and if you check out the mark scheme, they list a lot of words that you can use. So what I'm trying to say is that it's pretty easy to hit the mark on the jackpot because there's only so many words that you can use, and you just have to rephrase it in an easier way. But still, even though it is easy, this section is relatively easy, you shouldn't overlook it because these marks are going to be valuable, and these are kind of like just easy marks to get. So why give up easy marks, you know? So just make sure that you're taking in just exactly what it says from text A and answer those questions, and you shouldn't have a problem. Now, that should only be 2 pages worth of questions, so it's not too bad. So to summarize for text A, in total the marks given for text A is just 15 points, and you reading the passage and answering the questions from 1A to 1E, you should allocate yourself around 20 minutes for that. That's kind of more like an upper limit of how much time you should allocate to it, but realistically it shouldn't take that long once you get the hang of it, because you need to start learning to save time for the questions afterwards. And yeah, so the next part is reading text B. Now for text B, there's only one question that you have to answer about it, but a lot of people find it kind of difficult. It's the summary question. So it's a little bit longer, and this question, just one of these questions is just worth 15 marks. 10 for the content of your answer and 5 for the quality of your writing. So this means that you should first read the goddamn text, okay? What you should do for this question is that you should look at what they're asking you to write a summary about in the question booklet first, and then as you're reading text B, you start ticking, like highlighting notes to answer that question, and usually you should find about 10 distinct points to write about in your summary. Now the summary is also, the guideline says that it should be less than 120 words, which is actually pretty difficult because you're trying to contain these 10 marks worth of points for your summary. So you have to use strategies to kind of like shorten the word count and get as much information out there as possible. So for example, the sentence structures that you should use that my teacher taught me is not only blank, blank, and blank, and also like you should use connecting phrases such as additionally, blank, and blank. And the tip for this question is that you should always include at least 2 pieces of information in each sentence, because the word count is valuable and also your time is valuable, and you want to get this question done with as soon as possible, because this text doesn't really matter, because all you need this text for is to answer just one question. And yeah, just do it as skillfully as possible so that you can also get the 5 marks for the quality of your writing. And all in all, reading this text and answering this question, which is question 1F, it should only be 20 minutes. Also, these minute to mark things, they're kind of calculated based off of how many marks they're worth as well, and also factoring in the reading time, which is why the previous 2 sections have been 15 points for 20 minutes. Okay, anyway, next is reading text C. There's going to be a lot of questions based on this text, so you have to make sure that you understand it fully, thoroughly, completely. And the first chunk of questions, they're more about words. So you have to identify a word or phrase from the text which suggests the same idea as the words underlined. So basically what this means is that they give you like 4 examples of like sentences, and there's going to be phrases underlined, and you have to try and find the matching phrase in the text. This is also pretty straightforward. You just have to know how to do it quickly, because these are only worth 1 mark each, but they're really easy marks. Honestly, the more you do, the easier it's going to get, and you'll be able to find the corresponding phrases in no time. And these questions honestly should not take that long, because you can just like do it as you go, you know what I mean? And then the next part, question 2B, it's a using your own words question where you have to explain what the writer means by each of the following words underlined. So here it gives you like a segment, like a few paragraphs from the text where it underlines some words, and you have to just rephrase them based on context. So you can't just like pull out a dictionary definition. You have to like see what it means in a context and find a synonym that would work in the context. And to do this, it's also pretty simple, but just like substitute words that you know into the sentence and replace the underlined word and see if it makes sense and conveys the same meaning. If it does, then you got it, 1 mark. And yeah, you can easily just get 3 marks from that. Not too difficult, don't worry too much about that. And then after that, you have question C, where you have to use your own words again to explain an aspect, like a main point from a paragraph that they give you. And this question is worth 3 marks. So you have to find the main points in the paragraph, delete the rest of the sentence, and then rephrase the sentence and spit it out again, and then explain it, elaborate to get the additional marks. This again is not too bad, because it's usually pretty, straightforward. Like, Intuitive, yeah, it's pretty intuitive. So yeah, for that section, which I'm going to be calling the Text C reading plus short answers section, all in all, that's worth 10 marks, but factoring in the time you need reading the questions, it should take you about 15 minutes. Like, that's the limit you should put on it. And then after that, you have to do question 2D. So 2D is a little bit more complicated. It is also worth 15 marks. And for this question, they give you 2 paragraphs, and you have to explain how the writer uses language to convey meaning and to create effect in these paragraphs. And you're meant to choose 3 examples of words or phrases from each paragraph to support your answer, and this is about 300 words. Usually I do end up writing over the word limit. It's kind of just like an imaginary word limit. Like, I don't think they look too closely at it. It's more just like a guideline of how much you should be writing. But the key thing for this question is that you should identify which phrases you're going to use early on, because you don't want to spend time like trying to decide which phrases to use, because that's just wasting time. You should put as much time as possible just figuring out like the analysis that you're going to write for those words, and just write it and just get on with it, because there's bigger questions to come. The formula for this question, because you have to analyze 6 different words or phrases, 3 from each paragraph, so you have to do this quick. So I developed a formula for how you should answer this question. So first, what you should do after you pick your word or your short phrase, keep in mind if it's a short phrase, it should only be about like 2 to 3 words long, because the longer phrase you pick, the more you have to explain, and the more chances your marks will be lowered because you're not explaining a phrase in its full entirety, if that makes sense. Yeah, so just pick words or very, very short phrases. So first, what you should do is you should explain the meaning in context. And for this means that you should use synonyms. For example, if you're explaining the word vile, you can just say the word vile means evil and nasty, full stop. Like, that's all you need. And then after that, you can start talking about symbolic meaning and effect. So for this part, you should use sentence structures such as this emphasizes blah blah blah. Figuratively, this shows blah 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 blah. The phrase gives us the image or the imagery of blah blah blah, and this gives us the effect of blah blah blah. Because like at the end of the day, this question is a writer's effect question, so you're more so talking about the effect that the words are giving the reader and how they're making the reader feel. Yeah, and how they're kind of like associated with the overall feeling that the text is trying to give, if that makes sense. So as an example, I have this in my notes of like a past paper example, and it was about this like nasty woman, basically. And the phrase that I chose from the paragraph was upside down new moon. So what I wrote just for this phrase, to explain this phrase, was her mouth was compared to an quote upside down new moon, meaning an inverted crescent. So that would be listing the phrase and then explaining the actual meaning. And then I said, this gives us the imagery of a deep frown, which further emphasizes her disapproval and dislike of the children. So as you can see, it's really simple, honestly. You just have to explain it in its entirety, and you can say it in a straightforward way just to like lay it out there in clear terms, just so you can like convey your overall point and get that across. So for each of the 2 paragraphs that they give you, after you're done analyzing the 3 different words, you have to write a concluding sentence talking about the overall sense that these words give you when they come together. So this would be like a sentence that starts off with, the overall effect of the language creates an image of blank. So you just have to like concisely say what feeling the paragraph is trying to say, and how the words that you picked helps the author illustrate that point. And then you have to do this twice for the 2 paragraphs that the exam gives you to answer. So for example, the overall sense of the descriptions is Aunt Peg's outpour of hatred for the children. Her dislike of children makes her domineering as she seeks retribution. So that's the concluding sentence that I wrote for the same past paper I was just talking about. But as you can see, it's really simple, straightforward. No need to write like heaps and tons of words for it. You just have to get the point across and how it makes the readers feel based off of the words that you chose. Okay, So I hope that was straightforward enough. For that section, which we call the powerful words, it's worth 15 points, and we also dedicate 20 minutes to it, which includes kind of like planning time, so highlighting the words you want and like briefly thinking about what you're going to say for each of them and actually writing it, obviously. And also, one key thing to mention is that if time is flying by and you feel like you are running out of time and you looked at the clock, 20 minutes for this question has already gone by, if your mind is still on a blank, like you're not sure if you can even finish it because your brain generally cannot think further, you should just leave it and like come back to it if you have time at the end, because honestly it's not worth it getting like fighting for like 3 extra marks when you have another question after this that's worth 25 marks. Like it would be a lot more valuable cutting your losses then, moving on because time is not enough, and you can come back to it once you figure your stuff out. But yeah, the most important thing in this paper is that you need to know when to cut your losses if you're running out of time. But ideally, obviously, the running out of time situation should not even happen because you'll be well prepared. But yeah, if that happens, I'm just letting you guys know that it's better to cut your losses because the marks, think about the marks. It's all a marks game. Okay, and then the last question for this paper, once you open your paper and you've gotten to the last few pages and you think you're almost done, they give you a question that's worth 25 marks, and it's really difficult and it's just really annoying, but I'm going to teach you guys how to get through it. So for this question, we call it the directed writing question, and it's based off of text C. So here they're going to give you a text type that you should write about, and it's going to be in bold, and then they give you 3 bullet points, which are your 3 points of focus that you should write about in your essay. And it says that it should be 250 to 350 words, but based off of past experiences and based off of all my classmates and everything, it's kind of hard to fit that in 350 words, so usually we just write as much as we can to fit all the bullet points in. For the text type that they give you, it's really important to pay attention to this because you do get awarded marks based off of how well you match the text type. And then in the syllabus, it lists out the text types that might come up on the test, like the only ones that could possibly pop up are all listed there. So that includes a letter, an article, a speech, an interview, a journal, a report. So with this information, you should kind of figure out like the basic structure of those text types just in case it ever comes up on the final exam. There are certain text types that come up a lot more than other ones. For example, like letters, articles, I think those are the most common ones in past papers, but you never know, right? You never know if you're going to be asked to write a report. And if you're in that anxiety-inducing exam environment and you're asked to write a report and you've never written a report before, you're going to be thinking about how much better it would have been if you prepared like the basic structure of a report while you're revising. So that's why my advice is to kind of set out like the basic structure of each of these text types and understand how to do it and make it look like it's off that text type. More oftentimes than not, it's really like easy molding something into a text type. You just have to know what it kind of looks like in terms of like heading, subheadings, whether you write the date or not, whether you address it to someone, stuff like that. And the other key thing that you have to make note of is the audience and the register of the essay that you're about to write. So the reason I'm talking about all of this right now is because it's really useful in the planning of your essay before you actually start writing it. But yeah, you should look back at the question and identify who you're writing it to. So for example, if it's like to the parents of somebody in the article or like a managerial role or like a friend, like you really have to understand it and put yourself in the shoes of a person in the text C. And you have to figure out if your register should be formal or informal. So that determines the kind of words that you use. If it is formal, you should obviously be using more like fancier words, like sincerely, bigger words perhaps, but obviously still don't use words that you don't know the meaning of, because I think examiners can tell when you're like using words that you don't know the meanings of. And if the register is informal, you still should not make it too informal. Like it should still be semi-formal, because at the end of the day, this is an exam and you're getting evaluated on how well you write. So please don't like put extremely casual words, because that does not show off any of your writing ability. yeah, so the key thing for this question is that you should still be like showing off your writing ability, because that's where 10 of the marks come from, because 15 of the marks are about the content and 10 marks are about the quality of your writing. And for the structure of this essay, you should put like introduction if your text type requires an introduction, but this should be really brief, by the way. And then your next 3 paragraphs should be corresponding to the 3 bullet points that the question gives you. The thing is, you have to follow what the question gives you, because how else are you supposed to get the marks? You have to follow exactly what the examiners are looking for. It's really straightforward. And then after that, you'll have your conclusion, which should also be short. And like the ending thing of your text type, for example, if it's a letter, then like best wishes, sincerely, whatever. So for the 3 bullet points, the first 2 are usually pretty straightforward. Like you can find them directly in the text. And when I'm planning for my essays, I kind of just highlight the points that I want to mention and like rephrase into my essay. However, bullet point 3 is always a lot more difficult because it requires you to use your critical thinking. Now, you have to like actually put yourself in the shoes of the characters, and you have to be like making up scenarios, kind of like you just have to use your imagination for this question. You have to analyze the information further, like you have to take a further step while writing it, because for the 3rd bullet point, it's usually not explicitly mentioned in the text. You just have to draw further connections to like your daily life, or like just like relevant ideas, and then you can write that in the text, and it would be a lot more impressive because you're actually like applying it and not just regurgitating information from the text, which is the pitfall of a lot of students. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about paper 2, which is a little bit more straightforward because there's only 2 big essays, and you get 2 hours for all of it. The first question for section A, it's also a directed writing, and it's really similar to the last question of paper 1. So honestly, my tips would be the same. The only difference is that because it's a writing paper, this question is focused more on the quality of your writing. So there's 25 marks awarded for the quality of your writing and 15 for the content, which means that you have to focus more on how you're writing, what you're writing. It's also based on 2 texts, unlike paper 1, where you have to write a directed writing based on 1 text. So that kind of gives you more information that you can like put together and synthesize and integrate into your essay and further like draw connections and do all that I was talking about earlier. The text types are also going to be listed in the thing. I think it's a lot more specific, like you're not going to get like an interview as a text type, because I think for the paper 2 one, although you have to check me on this, but what I have written down is that it's only possible that you will get a letter or a speech or an article that you have to write. And those are a lot more straightforward. So it gives you a lot more opportunity to like show off your writing skills and get those 25 valuable marks. And yeah, you should dedicate just max 1 hour on this one, because as I said, there's 2 essays and the whole paper is 2 hours in total. So it's only intuitive that you just do 1 hour. And if you're not done, again, just move on, because there's so many more marks from the next question that you have to get. I'm getting kind of tired talking, but the final thing that I have to talk about is section B, which is going to be a narrative or descriptive writing. There's a higher word limit on this question, but it kind of gives you the opportunity to use your own imagination a lot more, because what they do is they give you 4 prompts. 2 of them are descriptive and 2 of them are for narrative writings, and it tells you that you have to write 350 to 450 words, and there's 16 marks for content and structure and 24 marks for style and accuracy. So for this essay, whenever I had to do it in like mock exams and the final exam, I always chose descriptive writing. Even though my teacher did give us the advice that you should be kind of prepared for both narrative and descriptive, I've always just been a stronger descriptive writer. So I've always opted for descriptive because I don't really like have the time to think about a whole plot if I'm doing narrative writing. But for general tips, you should not spend more than 5 minutes planning, because it's best to just get your pen on the paper. The ideas are going to flow to you as you start writing, but the key thing is just to like start the process, start your brain moving so that your writer's flow can come to you. And another key tip is that for both narrative and descriptive writing, you should not switch from past to present tense. You should just take one tense and stick to it. And usually I would do the past tense because I think it made more sense in my head. But yeah, if you do a narrative writing, I remember that the tips that we always got was that you should only have 2 characters, and in your plot you should just have one action, one plot twist, and like a change of mood situation. Like, you really should not overcomplicate it. You shouldn't be building like Harry Potter systems of like these like plot developments and like intricate like character relationships. Like, this is seriously the most basic plots things that you can get, because it's only like a 2-ish page essay. And if you do a descriptive writing, I would prepare like it's not really a bank of essays, but it's just like good descriptions that I could apply to different essays. For example, like descriptions about the weather, descriptions about like different scenarios in public. And then I wouldn't memorize them word for word, but because I pre-wrote them, I would kind of have a sense of like the kind of pretty language that I could use in the real exams, like the similes, metaphors, whatever, those literary techniques that are good and make you seem like a pro. There's a lot of channels out there that you can watch about how you can improve your writing. Since I am not an English teacher, it's kind of difficult for me to talk about exactly how you should use these techniques, but what matters is that I'm telling you to use those techniques. So yeah, just try to do as much as you can. And yeah, that's kind of it for paper 1 and 2 of English Language 0500. This video definitely took me a lot longer to film than I expected. I've been filming for more than 30 minutes now, but it's fine because I hope this helped some of you guys out there. If it did, please leave me a comment and tell me what you learned, or tell me what I should do in my next videos. Oh, also, I had some papers here that I forgot to talk about, but I printed out, or my teacher printed out for us, like the mark schemes for the big essay questions, and you should just have a read over those to know where, like, how you're getting marked, because these are the things that your examiners are going to be using. I would also save, like, past essays that I did in class for the different questions, which are also marked by my teacher. So I had some like constructive criticism for how I could improve my future writings. And yeah, my teacher was really good at giving good advice and like identifying like grammar errors and everything. And yeah, I actually have a lot of these accumulated because of the sheer amount of essays that we were forced to do. But yeah, it's always good to like keep your past papers, because you know you could always draw on stuff from them for your future writings. And yeah, I still to this day keep them in a folder because I never know when I'm going to need them. And also, even in the future, even when you're done with your IGCSEs, there's possibly some like useful things that you can reference from your previous essays. Anyway, back to what I was saying, you can leave me a comment, also leave a like on this video, and feel free to subscribe, turn on post notifications because I'm going to be posting more. And yeah, hope this video helped some of you guys out there and you're not tired of me talking, but I really hope to like condense all the information possible in one video, because you know this stuff is hard to navigate if you don't have like the most helpful teacher and stuff. So yeah, hope that helped coming from somebody who already has the experience and everything. And what else? Subscribe and turn on post notifications. Yeah, thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day and good luck with your exams. Okay, bye.